Today on Ask the Oracle, we have a really juicy topic: soulful flow, mystical stories, unlocking inner magic with the beautiful Clare Lovelace. Join me in a spirited conversation with Clare, an inspired yoga teacher, magnificent storyteller, and founder of Soul Tribe Studio on Yuin Country, South Coast, New South Wales. Clare's teaching is a soulful fusion of movement, mythology, mantra, and mystical wisdom, creating a sanctuary for community, creativity, and a really beautiful, deep, soulful connection to nature. She's right up my alley. Soul Tribe is my happy place, and Clare is actually my favorite yoga teacher. So excited to have this chat with you today, my love. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm doing really well. Yeah, I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome. So I love your sessions, and I'll tell you why, because I just find them so deeply spiritual. And I love that you have this gorgeous fusion of yoga, storytelling, and mantra in your teachings. How did this beautiful, unique fusion evolve?
Thank you. I love teaching. I love it so much. It's such a creative process for me. And when I first started teaching, I never saw myself as a teacher or like a leader in any way, shape, or form. When I was younger, I had a lot of insecurity, and I've always been quite naturally shy and introverted. So the idea of me ever being in front of people was very far from what I could imagine. But when I first started practicing yoga in 2010, I just fell in love with the mystical, spiritual, energetic, and movement side of it, everything about it. And after practicing for a couple of years, I was like, I have to do something with this. I have to take it further. And there was lots of little prompts from the universe and lots of twists and turns. And I started teaching in 2013. I did my first teacher training then. And I think at first, when I first started teaching, my classes were not like they are now. I was really like with anything, I was finding my feet. I was learning what my own unique style was and is. I was learning how to build all these different elements. But over the years, and I've always, since I did that first teacher training, I just threw myself into teaching full time. And, now I, of course, own the studio, and I used to manage a yoga studio before that. But managing the studios and then owning the studios is, huge. But teaching has always been my full-time thing. So I've taught a lot. Like I've taught consistently for 12 years now, and not just like a little bit of teaching, like probably like 20 classes a week, as an average for many, 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 many years. So it's something that has evolved over time. And I've always loved stories. I've always loved writing. I've always loved reading. As a child, I was always reading. Like I always had my head in a book, and I just learned to read really young. I just picked it up really when I was really young. I remember reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series when I was a little girl, and I was like really, really little, probably in first year of primary school, and I was reading it like, it's like a book, and the teachers were like, "Oh, like that's cute that you're pretending to read that book." I was like, but I was actually just reading it in my head. I just picked it up really fast, and I loved immersing myself in books and stories, and I loved anything to do with like creative, mystical worlds. So I was always just really drawn to that side of it. So I think that that does come through in my teaching. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of writing. Um, I love, I love stories. I love mythology. I think that storytelling is just such an important part of being alive and being human. It's how we communicate, it's how we connect. I think that the stories that we tell each other and the stories that we tell ourselves are really, really important and can either save us and heal us and bring us back into remembrance, or they can really harm us. We can tell ourselves stories that are really harmful. So yeah, I'm just really into stories, and I love language and I love poetry. So I think that this love for stories has naturally come through my teaching. When I first started studying yoga, I came across, yoga history and then mythology and the stories of the gods and the goddesses, of Lakshmi and
Mm.
Kali and Durga, and the stories that came along with Hindu mythology and yogic mythology. I just found them really colorful and fun, and yeah, metaphors for life. So that's why I like to weave them in. Um, yeah, yeah, has
Yeah,
that?
I'm so glad you do. I'm so glad you weave, you layer it and you weave the magic in. I just think it really enriches the session. And yeah, there's so much wisdom in our collective story, seeing the wisdom in mythology and stories and, consciously creating new stories. And it's just so beautiful. And I love that you do that, Myths and stories have carried wisdom for centuries. What are some of your favorite spiritual and mythological tales, and how do they guide modern seekers? Now, I've been lucky enough to witness some of this from you. So, yeah, you sort of touched on it with beautiful Durga and Kali Ma and beautiful goddess Lakshmi. So, yeah, would you like to share some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite stories is from a text called the Devi Mahatmya, which is an ancient text about Devi. So Devi is the goddess, and the goddess isn't just like pretty or acceptable or pleasing. And I think sometimes that word goddess
Yes,
can be a little bit like it
I'm really
can
glad you touched on that. Yeah.
turn people off, or someone might think, like, if a male was listening to a story about like goddess or heard the word goddess, might think, oh well, that's not for me because I'm in a man's body. Or if someone's like doesn't necessarily relate to prettiness or I don't know, flowers or like a lot of jewelry or things like that, they might think, oh, that's not to do with me. But actually, goddess is Shakti, and Shakti means power. And in yoga mythology, everything is created through Shiva, which means consciousness, and Shakti, which means power. So without Shakti, Shiva, like consciousness can't be manifested.
Yeah.
It's just the void. And without Shiva, power, so energy and matter, cannot take form, cannot be aware of itself, cannot be animated. So that's just a very kind of basic explanation of like the cosmology of
Yes.
yoga.
Yeah.
It's Shiva and Shakti, which represent consciousness and power, or you could say represent consciousness and then energy and matter. So
Yes.
the goddess is everything, like everything is the goddess. So I think
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
really important to remember. But in this story, Devi Mahatmya, so Devi means the goddess, means everything, Shakti, power. Um, and in the story, it's an archetypal story. So in the story, once upon a time, the world is in trouble because the male deity Brahma, which isn't really male in the same way that we think about male and female, but the
Yes. Yeah.
masculine energy of Brahma, the creator god, he has granted one of the asuras. So asura is a demon, and represents the shadow aspect of ourself. So he's granted one of the asuras a lot of power because one of these asuras was doing a lot of yoga, doing a lot of spiritual practice, doing a lot of tapas, which is like heated practices to kind of get something in return, to get a boon. It's called in yoga mythology like a gift. And so Brahma grants this asura this gift, and he just becomes way too powerful. And the asura, he asks for immortality, which isn't like, it's just a no-no because it just can't happen because it's not the cosmic order. So Brahma's like,
Yes.
well,
Yeah.
come on, like I can't grant you immortality. You know that's not possible. Like ask for something else. So he's like, okay, well, please grant that I can never be destroyed by any man. So he's like, okay, fine. And so this sort of just becomes really, really powerful, and he doesn't have great intentions. And so he takes over. He's got a lot of power. He doesn't care about his subjects. He's this very powerful king, and is just treating everyone really unfairly. So everything gets really out of balance. And this happens a lot in the stories. It's like there's this balance between shadow and light, and they're both important. But when
Yes.
one aspect becomes out of balance, like an extreme, then something needs to happen to readdress the cosmic order. And I would say that we just see this all the time, like in the world. But in the story, in the myth, all the gods and all the goddesses and all of the deities and the elemental beings, they kind of get together and they're like, look, this is getting way out of control. We need to do something. This particular asura has made a pact with Brahma. He can't be destroyed by any man. So who can we call on? And in the story, the greatest power are the female warrior goddesses.
Oh, I love this so much.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. I know.
Yeah.
And it's actually so true, this is not about men versus women or
No,
anything like
that's
that.
right.
But we do hold the power. Like we are the birth givers, we are the carers of the earth. So in the story, they call upon Durga. So Durga, so it's pronounced with like the long U, Durga. She is called upon, and in all of the images, she is very, very beautiful. She's got really long black hair, and she rides around on a lion. She's got 8 arms, and in each arm, she's holding a different weapon, which I think really speaks to like women's ability to
Yes.
multitask and do lots of things at the same time. Um,
Yeah.
and she's like, I always imagine like she's up in the cosmos, and then she gets this phone call, like, hey, like we're really in trouble. Can you help us? And she's feeling in a particularly good mood. So she's like, okay, like I'll come and help you. You've messed everything up. It's all right. Like I'm here. So she comes down, and she arrives on her lion, hair streaming. She's all in red. She's got red sari, weapons in each arm, and she turns up at the gates of the Asura kingdom. And they take a look out of the window, and they're like, oh, like what's this woman doing here? Like they're kind of, they think it's sort of funny, but they're also a bit like offended. Like, she thinks she can do anything. We're the most powerful force like in the whole world. How, like, what's she gonna do? So they're very dismissive, and they're like, right, let's just capture her, enslave her. And so they come down, they open the gate. And then as soon as they open the gate, I mean, she could have just blasted through it anyway, but they open the gate and she just blasts in, and she just starts like annihilating all of the demonic forces, which is a representation of how these practices and devotion and gratitude to life, to nature, can come in and sever, our stories of unworthiness, sever
Yes.
blame, sever resentment.
Yeah.
So we do this in the practice And it's not like any of these things are bad. You know, we say like they're called demons and asuras and dark forces, but they're not bad. Like nothing is good or bad. It's the flow of the universe. There's always shadow and light. But if those things are taking over, like if we're leading from fear and resentment and blame, like
Yeah.
we just know our actions are not going to be in service. So yeah, so she starts, and this is in this great battle. It's called Navaratri, and it's actually celebrated in India and across the world twice a year, every single equinox. So the spring equinox and the autumn equinox celebrated twice a year, and it's called Navaratri, the 9 nights of the goddess Durga, because it takes her 9 nights, like 10 days and 9 nights to
Oh, I see.
yeah,
Yeah.
to win essentially. So the first like couple of days, she's just like she's all over it. She's one goddess, but she's got so much power. They're sending out armies and armies and armies, and she's just like, yeah, like whatever, you know, she could do it in her sleep. Um, and this is representing when we maybe first start on the spiritual journey, like, you know, it depends, but at first it can feel like, oh my God, like I'm suddenly doing all this work and wow, I'm like making so much progress, like
So true. Yeah.
yeah. And then
Mm.
after about 3 nights, they were like, okay, like we're really like in trouble here, like shit, we need to send, you know, like the big guns, and like they send out the warriors that they would never normally send out to like a normal fight. So it's kind of like that second battalion, which is more challenging. It's more challenging for Durga. She's actually like really having to like work and use all her powers and draw on all of her strength and intuition. And this is like on the kind of spiritual path. This has been my experience. Like, you know, you think, oh, I'm doing so great. Like, oh, I've got it. You know, wow. Like, this is amazing. And then for me, it's like after a couple of years, suddenly it's like, oh, there's that thing again that I didn't
Yeah.
kind of thought that I processed or I thought that I'd dealt with, or here it is again. And it kind of feels like everything kind of feels a lot harder sometimes. So I think, you know, we're really sent like what we can handle at the time. So, and then in the middle of this, they're sending out like more and more powerful, skilled warriors. And even Durga, is starting to get like a little bit worried and fatigued. And this can be like with us when we start to doubt the path, like, what am I doing? Who am I?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? It's too hard. But then she calls on her deepest strength, which is always her intuition. Same for us. And in the middle of the battle, like middle slightly towards the end, as things are starting to get really, really difficult, like they're almost winning, but she calls on her intuition and she calls out the great warrior goddess Kali, who I'm sure, you know, people have heard of. Kali is in so many stories and she's got so much imagery around her. But Kali actually comes forth from Durga's third eye, and that's when Kali is said to have been birthed into the world. So Kali is the goddess of transformation and change, and destruction, and
Yeah.
she's the cutting away. So in the cycle of everything, we've got Saraswati at the start, the goddess of speech, the start of something. We have Lakshmi in the middle, the goddess of sustenance and abundance. And then we've got Kali and Durga, they're kind of together, but at the end of that cycle, it's not really the end, it's the beginning, but they're the end.
Mm.
So that's
That
like,
perpetual cycle. Yeah.
yeah. So Kali looks really fierce. She's got blue-black skin. She is like in this kind of wild dance because she kind of gets this bloodlust and she's just like totally wild, like ready for the kill. She's got a big tongue and she wears a necklace of human skulls, which is said to represent all the parts of our ego that we're shedding in this
Yes.
birth.
Yeah.
she's wearing a little mini skirt of severed arms, as you do. And
Yeah.
she's like half naked and just wild. She just represents like the wild nature of ourselves and of nature. It's like right here where we are now, it's like wild rain, big
Yes.
storms. It's like that's Kali energy. Kali energy is in the storms. So Durga cools her forth because Durga is very she's extremely strong. She's strength, she's determination. She doesn't have that like wildness that Kali has. So she really needs that part of herself to come forth. And there's a particular asura, a particular demon called Raksha Bija, which means blood seed. Bija is seed, like Bija mantra, you might have heard of that. But Rakta Bija is blood seed. And this particular asura is causing so much damage because his special power is that every time he spills a drop of blood, the blood lands and multiplies into another one of him. So he just keeps
Oh,
multiplying
there you
every,
go.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is like a symbol of the tendencies and the habits that we have, and we keep doing them, and then they multiply. We keep checking our phone, and then we can't stop checking our phone. We keep
Yeah.
eating the chocolate, and then we just can't stop eating the chocolate. We think I have a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. This can happen with so many things. So Kali comes out of Durga's third eye, and with her big tongue, she starts licking all of these drops of blood up before they have a chance to multiply. So she's like the energy that comes in and is like, this is enough, no
Yeah.
no more phone in the evening, or no more getting addicted to this wanting to please everyone, or it's like when we get kind of really tough with ourselves and we're like, no, like there's a line in this.
Enough is enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the energy of that. And then after that happens, then essentially then the battle is won. And after the 9 nights, the battle is won, and the forces of light, the devas, the devis and the devas, the forces of light prevail, which they always do.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's the story. And
That's
I
a brilliant story. And I love the way you bring it back to like everyday practical things so that it's more relevant and meaningful kind of to where we're at too. So I love that you do that intuitive interpretation in regards to, okay, this is what we do.
yeah.
It's so good.
Mm.
You're very I just kept visualizing all of that. Like that was just so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
No worries. Thank you for giving me the space to share. I love it.
Yeah. So let's just kind of pivot a bit here. So
Yeah.
beyond the kind of like the physical postures, and yoga is a profound kind of spiritual journey. What does embodied wisdom mean to you?
I love that question. So, embodiment to me means a deep knowing that's in my body, but also beyond the body.
Yes.
So it's like, it's so important to have a connection to this physical body. And when I first started practicing yoga, I'd had no exposure whatsoever to yoga or meditation or spirituality, like nothing before. And when I first started, I was 26. And I was very disconnected from my body. I wasn't taking care of my body. I didn't really, like, I couldn't really feel my body in any given moment. So when I first
Yeah.
started practicing yoga asana, the postures, it was really hard for a start, but then I was, the teacher would say, step your right foot forward. And I would just be like, what? Like, I don't even, where is my right foot? There was
Yeah.
this connection there. So I think that yoga is amazing for bringing that embodiment in, as in yoga teaches us how to come back to the body and start to feel, okay, well, this is how my body feels in space. Even as I'm sitting here talking to you now, it's like having a sense of feeling grounded to the earth, or in the chair, like feeling my shoulders, noticing my jaw. And it's not like I'm thinking about this. I think when we start to practice yoga or any kind of body work, this just starts to happen naturally, which is amazing news, because then when we're whatever we're doing in our life, whether we're sitting and we're working, we're writing, we're in the office, we're with our kids, if you have kids, I don't, but if you're with your family,
Yeah.
all the things that we do as humans, we're driving, we're in the supermarket, you know, our everyday life, because that's when the magic is happening. It's like in the everyday life, it's like when we're hanging out the washing, when we're cleaning the toilet, like this is where the yoga really happens. So when we're doing all of that, we can be present in our bodies. So, I mean, just from a really practical perspective, we're less likely to get injured or fall, or,
Yeah.
you know, I can be really clumsy and I can definitely
Yeah.
drop things and fall over and all the rest of it. But um, it gives us more body awareness just in that really practical way. And then also we're present. Like if I'm thinking about or feeling, more than thinking about, if I'm feeling my feet on the earth, even when I'm in the supermarket, I can feel my feet. I'm there in the moment. I'm present. I'm not always future forwarding. And our minds are very
Yes.
good at going into stories, and usually those stories that involve the future, they're not usually that helpful, because they're either setting us up for a whole lot of expectation and then
True.
disappointment,
Yeah.
or it's like fear mongering, you know, something bad's going to happen, something bad's going to happen. Like we all know that feeling of worrying. So that, yeah, that's what embodiment means for me. But then, so it's getting back to the body, which is really important, but it's also remembering that we're not just this body. And so it's like these two kind of seemingly paradoxical things, and everything in yoga philosophy, it's like there is a paradox, and that the universe, I think, is paradoxical by nature. We want a clear answer, like, is it this or is it this?
Yeah.
But actually it's both. So
Yeah.
it's important to be in the body.
Night and day, winter, summer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But also embodiment means uh, this relationship with what's beyond the body. So like
Yes.
spirit, consciousness, uh, the unseen, you know, this is the work that you're doing, right? Like the
Yeah.
unseen, the energy work, the deep knowing that's beyond the body. And eventually it's like we all know that these physical bodies are going to disintegrate at some point, and we're all going
Yeah.
to die, and no one is immune to that, you know,
Yeah.
because people
That's it.
try, but like that's the beautiful thing about being alive.
Yeah.
If we thought we were going to be alive forever, it just wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't be as special. Like every time we see someone, it's like that there's that beauty there, because we just don't know, like we don't know what can happen
Yeah.
in a moment. So embodiment for me is also the connection to spirit as well. And so embodied wisdom is wisdom that comes from understanding that. So it's like wisdom that comes from the knowing in the physical body. So like we'll all be familiar with gut instinct. Like we all know that feeling of you just had a feeling about something or someone, and what we
Yeah.
really do, and what I've done, you know, a lot, and you know, I still do. Like sometimes it's, you know, it can be hard to really trust that, but every single time I've known that there was something a little bit off there, or something wasn't quite right, or you know, or the other way, like, oh, this is something that I really need to move toward. When that gut instinct comes in, it's beyond the mind. It's like pre-thought, pre-mind. It's that feeling usually like in the belly. Um,
Yeah.
that's embodied wisdom. And then being able to trust that, it takes a lot of courage. And embodied wisdom is understanding as well this bigger perspective, that if we can zoom out a little bit, you know, if we're really worrying about something, or we've had an argument with someone, or you know, the things that happen in life, there's some conflict, it's very easy for that to become really all consuming, and it's like, well, you can think about, you know, this person thinks about this about me, or this person said this,
Mm.
or you know, whatever it is, especially, yeah, like if we come up against criticism or something like that, which is always going to happen because we're human. So a life without conflict doesn't, that can't exist. And it's also,
Yeah.
we wouldn't want it to, because that's stagnation. But instead of getting really consumed by these things and then it turning in on ourselves, and we're, you know, just endless like self-analysis, or blaming the other person, or you know, this very contracted state, embodied wisdom is taking the
Mm,
awareness up. So
yeah.
getting like a bird's eye view. And so we can see, wait, like, hang on a minute. I always just like to look up, not right now because it's torrential rain. I mean, would still, I do like this feeling of rain on me, but, like looking up at the stars, looking up at the sky and just contemplating, wow, like I'm here as a tiny little being on this earth in the middle of space, in the middle of the universe. I know that, I'm going to die at some point. Like, is this really what I want to spend my time focusing on? So for me, having that perspective is embodied wisdom. So yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah. Love it. I know in the early days when I was on this kind of, I was thirsty for everything spiritual, and I'd go to all sorts of things. And I used to go to this trance meditation group, and we'd do this beautiful kind of almost like flying out of your body, flying around in, in the ether.
Yeah.
And then I had this realization a few years later too that, it's so important to come back to the body, the wisdom of the body, and to anchor to the here and now and be fully present. And I totally get too that, intuition, is inborn, it's innate, it's inbuilt. Our physical body temple has so much wisdom, but also we have this, everything's connected, right? So, yeah, there's this expansive universal wisdom as well. So yeah, yeah, so great. Yeah. I love talking about this stuff. So good.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What role do community and sacred spaces play in supporting personal transformation?
I love this question. Yeah, it's such a big one. Basically, the answer is a huge role, so essential. And it's something that I've been thinking about and talking about. I mean, my whole, like, since I've had the studio and beyond before that, but recently, even in the last few days, I met up with a friend of mine. I was in Sydney last week teaching, and my friend who was actually my very first yoga teacher, who I did my teacher training with, Matthew. We met up, and he's now a gestalt therapist. So he's doing a lot of somatic work. He's working with clients one-on-one, and he went to see a talk by Bessel van der Kolk, who's got The Body Keeps the Score, who wrote that really famous book, The Body Keeps the Score. And he said that, and this, like, Bessel van der Kolk is now in his 80s. He's amazing, and he's still traveling all around the world and teaching. But he said the main takeaway, well, a couple of things, but one of the main takeaways was this piece about being together in the healing, being together in the unpacking of things, being together in these practices. So then I've been thinking so much about yoga studios and how these spaces are so important, because we're so lucky. I don't know if lucky is the right word. Like, I created it, but I created it, but I also feel like, it's not just me, it's the whole, I've got an amazing team of teachers as well at the studio.
Yeah.
Lots of amazing, auspicious, good fortune moments, because it's where I'm meant to be, and it's what I'm meant to do. So I feel like I've been very supported by spirit as well. But here, like where we are on Yuin Country, Bateman's Bay, like having Soul Tribe, especially for like a smaller town, we're so lucky because it doesn't exist that many places, that kind of community. And I think that the studio, Soul Tribe, and yoga studios around the whole world, and there's so many people doing amazing things, and not just yoga studios, but any place where people can come and gather with some kind of intention, where it's not just like we're going to go to the coffee shop and have a chat, which is great. Like, that's really important too. But that's just a different kind of relating, which is important. But like, let's say if you move to a new town, how do you meet people, right? And the best way to meet people is through the things that you love. So maybe you join like the singing group, or you go to dance classes, or whatever it is for you. And all of those things are amazing because there's an intentional gathering, like you're gathering for a reason rather than a lot of the kind of normal social things, I think, can feel quite empty. And often
Hmm.
they are based around alcohol and food as well, which sort of has its own, can have its own issues. Um, but but yoga studios, to use that as an example, and like the studio that I have, Soul Tribe, that I own and teach at all the time. Um, that's such a unique space because not only are we coming together with a shared intention, people come because they want to practice yoga. We also have Pilates classes. They want to practice Pilates. They want to practice movement. They'll come to a sound healing, or they'll come to a meditation, and there's lots of different reasons, but the underlying reason is people want to feel free and they want to feel connected, which is like the
Mm.
whole goal of yoga is inner freedom.
Wow.
All of these things, really, that's why
Powerful.
we do them,
Yeah.
whatever it is, even the things that don't really serve us. We all know, like, we're doing it because we want to feel like freedom, we want to feel love, we want to feel safe. Like, if you look at anything that we do, anything that drives human behavior, it can kind of come down to that root. But with the studio, we've got, lots of people come together and you do the class, and I love it because even if you don't talk to anyone, you're all
Mm.
connected. Because sometimes, I don't know,
I
but
kind of like that too, to be
me too.
honest.
I know, me too. I don't always want to talk to people. I often want to be in my own space, but there's when you practice in a room with other people, when you practice yoga in a room with other
Yeah.
people, there's this co-regulation that happens to our nervous system. And this is like
Mm.
a scientifically proven if you're into that kind
Yeah.
of thing. But because it just makes sense. Like in the olden days, what air quotes, whatever you mean by that, but like thousands of years ago when we were all living in tribes, we would be together pretty much all the time. People would go and have their own time. And I think, walkabout and going on vision quests and own space was really important. And there was a lot of ceremony and ritual around that, which is amazing. But most of the time you'd be like together, you probably be co-sleeping with lots of people. So
Yeah.
there's something about being in a group with other people is actually very important for our nervous system. And loneliness is such a debilitating thing. And loneliness, as lots of studies show, there's that study that showed that loneliness was actually worse for you than smoking.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Yeah.
there's a lot of so just coming to the space together, coming into a class, like coming to the yin classes like you come to, everyone's lying down together. So it's sort of like you're co-sleeping, you're lying down. I always think it's
Mm.
like having a sleepover or something. Everyone's just like lying on the floor together. Of course, there's good amount of space between people, but that's really calming for the nervous system. And even if you don't talk to anyone, you might, you probably like, you'll smile, you'll say hi to people. You don't actually have to
But you don't have to be on. It's that the
no,
art of being, not doing.
exactly. Yeah. So I think that's
Yeah.
a really important thing about
Yeah.
gathering and intentional gathering and community. And then, from that, real friendships do grow. I mean, I came
Yeah.
to Bateman's Bay. I'd never even heard of Bateman's Bay, and I was just driving down in my van. I didn't know one person down here. Like, I didn't know anyone. And now I know like everyone. And I've have so many amazing friends. I'm so blessed. But every single one of my friends I've met through the studio.
So beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but people tell me this all the time. I moved to Bateman's Bay. I found all my friends at Soul Tribe, or I was feeling really disconnected from living here. I didn't know anyone. I came to Soul Tribe. I met all my friends. Like, I hear it over and over again. People say, like, if Soul Tribe wasn't here, I don't know what I'd really do. I probably wouldn't live here. I'd probably move away. Some people
Mm.
move to Bateman's Bay because of the studio, because of that community. So it creates community because, yeah, you do start to talk to people. We have tea after class sometimes. We've got lots of different community events that are designed to cultivate connection. So that, everyone's different because some people, they might be like, I've got like a lot of friends, or I've got a very full life already. They're coming for the they don't actually need to talk to anyone. They're still getting the co-regulation. But then
Yeah.
lots of people that come, they don't know anyone here, or they're living by themselves,
Mm.
or, maybe they're more elderly and their partner's died, or, whatever, that everyone's got a different situation. But if people are coming and they actually do want to meet people, it does happen like organically, because we're in this space that's very open, and just the kindness that I see all the time. People are always doing things for each other, just like really cute little things, like creating a little book swap. I've got a beautiful student who always brings in little flowers, plants.
Yeah.
Like, you've got your cards there. There's just so much creativity, and it just gives it just gives the space for all of that to come through, because I think there isn't really another space like a yoga studio.
No.
Like, I can't think of any other space
No.
where that kind of thing would happen.
No.
I'm
Well,
a,
I know I'm so
yeah.
grateful.
Mm.
Like I'm so thankful. Yeah, it's just such a beautiful place to come. And yeah, I know that I experience it. And I know when I come, you know, a few times a week, I'm just so much more grounded, centered, that sense of belonging to like-mindeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just create a beautiful sacred space. It's a safe container. And community, as you said, loneliness is debilitating. And I feel like what I love about what you do too is I've witnessed like you actually are so consistent. You actually literally show up, and it feels there's something really wonderful about consistency.
Yes.
I think you're closed like one day in the year or something, aren't you? Like you're just, there's always,
We're never
there's
closed. We're
always
open
something
every
on,
day. Yeah. We're
Yeah,
open every
yeah.
single day. Yeah. Even Christmas Day, we have classes. Yeah. I was thinking about it today. Like, we've basically had a workshop on every single weekend for 7 years, which is like 400 workshops or something. And yeah, we've got classes every day. We've got 40 classes a week, every single week, every day.
Yeah. That, magical momentum, that consistency, to me, that's integrity as well.
Yeah.
Like, the showing up and so beautiful. So, what simple everyday practices can help people, remember their own magic, do you think?
Yes, so many, but a few of my favorite. I think the morning is really, really important. Like, what you do first thing. I mean, sure, make a cup of tea, brush your teeth, whatever. But like, as soon as you can, as soon as you wake up, because the mind's in a very like receptive state, and the morning can be tricky for people. Like, sometimes we wake up and like we might already feel like, oh, there's all this anxiety or whatever, like sadness or things like that. So getting a morning practice. Now, what I do first thing in the morning when I wake up is I always go to the same spot in my house, where I just have a little simple altar with photos and things that remind me of all the things that I love, things from nature. So I think creating a little spot in your house, and it doesn't have to be fancy, it can anything. But just a spot where you go every day. Could be like in the corner of your room. And I always like to light a candle, and usually I'll burn like an incense or some sacred smoke, because there's something for me about the ritual of actually doing something. I'm lighting this candle with an
Mm,
intention. And I always start with saying thank you, even if, like, because it's let's some days I might just wake up and, like, for whatever reason, like we all go there, I'm in a bit of a funk, but I'll always start with thank you, and I'll just look around and say thank you for everything. Like, thank you for this house, thank you to these plants, thank you to the people that I live with, thank you to my cats, thank you to the family. Like, I just start saying thank you to all the things that I can see around me. And then I'm like, just starting with that, it's like, oh, wow, there's so much to say thank you for. Like, because we easily forget, right? Oh my God, I've got a shower. Not like, so many people don't have a hot shower. Like,
yeah.
if you've got a hot shower, you're like winning at life, but we forget, because
Yeah, that's it.
we can get so competitive, and especially in this online world, which has benefits, but we see what other people are doing, and we can really easily feel like we don't have enough. So I love to start with gratitude, and really all the simple things that I have, like a roof over my head. Like, it's just so important to give thanks to that. So starting with gratitude, and everyone's different. Some people like to write lots of things down, or simply repeat them, but having some kind of practice that you're saying thank you at the start of the day. I would definitely recommend that. I don't always do this practice, but I go through spurts of it and I love it when I do it. I really like doing morning pages, which is free writing in the morning. The suggestion is 3 pages of a notebook, but if you can do 1 page, that's great. Just like free writing, which means just start writing. Like you might just be like, oh, I'm looking around, I can see the fire. Oh, it's cold, bit cold today. Like just literally like a stream of consciousness, just not stopping writing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And just really like
That intuitive kind of almost automatic writing.
without any intention to ever share it. Like it's not about writing anything like, good or readable. It's just about clearing out all the kind of psychic junk that can be there. So I love that. I really love meditation. So I practice just a really still kind of meditation, Vipassana, where I'm just simply just watching my breath. I'll do that for 10 minutes and just be there. It's, not very long because usually I'm doing lots of things in the morning, but it's enough to just ground me in. And I mean, that can be challenging. Like you think, oh, sitting for 10 minutes, like, but it can be hard to do that because the mind's like, okay, what are you doing? Like, what's next? Like, why are you just sitting here? So that's a great practice. I really love doing breathing practices. Like I really love Kundalini yoga. So I like doing like more activating breaths, like breath of fire. So you can, there's so much online these days.
That beautiful fire breathing.
Yeah.
The deep breath.
But having some kind of breath practice and then connection to nature. So I think that's a really, really important thing. If you can get your feet, like your bare feet on the earth. And again, I was just in Sydney. So I was staying at my friend's house, which was an apartment on the 3rd floor in the city. And it was like, it's harder to put my feet on the earth. So it's not always the most practical thing. But if you can, just go to a park, like any way regularly that you can get your feet on the earth is going to really help and ground you. Movement, like sunlight. I mean, all the different really simple things. It's like so simple, but I think really important. If you're lucky enough to live near a river or the ocean, like getting fresh water is so important.
Because I know you do a lot of swimming, don't you?
Yeah, I go swimming like most days, because I just feel like I really need that ocean energy, that clearing. There's something about moving water that is very, very clearing. It's got I think it's the negative ions. Anyway, there is a scientific reason, but it just feels so good. So being outside as much as you can, feet on the earth, starting a day with gratitude. And I also really love like the bookends. So I love like having a practice first thing as I wake up, and it doesn't have to take long and it really doesn't have to be complicated. If you light a candle and say thank you every day, you will be amazed at how your life transforms. But it's not the quick fix. It's not like you just do it once and then you feel better. That's not how it works. It's like you said about the show. It's consistently over time, you're kind of building this like spiritual resilience, but it's a long game. But it's like
a long game.
Just start and let go of like attachment to the result. But the other thing that I love is the end of the day. So at the end of the day, I really like journaling in the evening just before I go to bed. I like writing what's at least 3 sweet or joyful things that happened today. And I might have forgotten about them. And then I go to sleep remembering those 3 sweet things. It could be the simplest thing. It could be like, oh, I made myself that really yummy cacao. That was so delicious. Or it could be, like I had that really nice interaction with a friend. Or, it could be something like business related, like, oh, I had someone sign up for a membership, or, whatever it is, but three things. And there's usually so many more, but if you can find 3 things and then go to sleep with that remembrance, that really helps.
Beautiful. I'm with you. I love a morning and an evening spiritual practice. I often do it at like sunrise and sunset, and a gratitude practice. And a full body prayer. And, even if it's just, it doesn't have to be an hour. It can be, as you said, 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
sometimes, some days, 10 minutes can feel challenging if you've got a lot on your mind. But yeah. And I love the way you weave it into your everyday as well. I think that's so beautiful. And to me, thank you is probably the most powerful mantra, the most powerful prayer on the planet.
Yeah, yeah.
And genuinely and living genuinely in an attitude of gratitude, and not for any kind of outcome, but just because it's just such a beautiful way to live.
Yeah.
Yay, I love that so much. Now, what else do I want to ask you? Let's have a little look. What has been one of the most transformational moments in your journey, and how has it really shaped what you teach, if that makes sense?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. Um, hmm. I would say the most transformational part of my journey was really, even before I started practicing yoga, was really the lead, like when I left the UK, because I left by myself. And I knew that I had to leave. I just had this calling to to be somewhere else. I was kind of just, yeah, called, but so it was a very strong intuitive calling, but it didn't really make any sense logically. Like I didn't have any money. I didn't really have like any career or any job or anything lined up anywhere. I was like working as a waitress basically. But I just packed up a bag one day and I was like, right, that's it. And I booked a one-way flight to Bangkok when I was 26. Um, and that is probably the most transformational part of my journey, because along like through that time from landing in Bangkok and then traveling through Southeast Asia, and traveling to Australia, traveling through Canada, all of the things that I did. Along that journey, I learned, even before I started practicing yoga, I started to learn about self-trust and trusting my instincts. And I really learned that
Yes.
whatever
Yeah.
happens, everything's going to be okay, was the main thing. Like, sometimes I'd end up like it is when you're traveling, like on a bus in the middle of nowhere, the bus just stops and like everyone has to get out and you're just in the middle of nowhere in the middle of Vietnam or something. Like these things happen and happen to me lots. But whatever happened, I was always okay.
Yeah.
I might have felt scared at the time. So it taught me a lot of trust.
Trust is
And
great.
yeah, that
Yeah.
allowed me to do everything that I do now. I mean, when I started the studio, like it was all these different things happened and it kind of got handed to me. But again, it didn't, like, if anyone had looked at that logically, they'd be like, this is a bad idea. It's not going to work. Like people would say, oh, in Bateman's Bay, like people aren't ready for yoga in Bateman's Bay, or, whatever, silly things like that. But I just had that trust that I'd built through years of traveling, of just going, oh, well, like it'll work, it'll work out. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. And that's the thing that traveling taught me as well. It's like,
Oh, that's brilliant.
in
Yeah.
all these random situations, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it doesn't matter, it'll be fine. Like I can always just, you can always be okay. It taught me to be very resourceful. So when I first took over the studio, again, I had no money. I was living in my van, like in the studio car park. I was just there and I was just me and I was just teaching, I was just showing up and no one was coming. But I was like, no, like I trust this. I'm gonna give it like
Yeah.
2 years. I just told myself, I'll just give it 2 years. If it doesn't work after 2 years, like fine. But I was like, I'm not quitting until after 2 years. So I'm
Oh, I
really
love that.
with,
Yeah.
yeah.
Taking the leap of faith, having the courage to, something called you to leave the UK, ending up in Bangkok, doing all that travel, and you're right, stuff happens, but I love that it built trust.
Mhm.
That's so amazing. I know I ran a meditation circle in Canberra for many years, and for the first 12 months, I think I had 2 or 3 people show up, but I just kept
Yeah.
showing up.
Yes, exactly. You've
And
got
in
to
the end, there was like 30, 40, 50
be
people would rock up, right?
amazing. I
I
know.
know, but remembering the why too, like why I was doing
100%.
it.
It's
Was I
so
really doing it to, you know, count the numbers? I don't think so, not really,
important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love that so much. So what one piece of wisdom or mantra that continues to guide you through life's challenges? Well, obviously trust, but yeah, is there something that you want to share with us?
There's so many.
I know. Where do you start?
But I do love Muji's words. So the great teacher Muji, thank you is the only prayer you need. I love
Love it.
that. I love Pema Chodron's words, and she says that we think that the point is to pass the test or overcome the problem, but the truth is that things don't get fixed. They come together and then they fall apart. Then they come together and then they fall apart again. Then they come together, then they fall apart again. And the healing comes from letting there be room and space for all of it. So, space for the relief, space for the grief, space for the joy, space for the misery. So, I love.
Oh, that's so empowering,
Mm,
isn't it? Like
yeah,
just
it
the
always
power
has.
of acceptance, like
Yeah,
surrendering to
yes,
that, you know, the that's so good. I love that so much. Before we jumped on today, Claire, I pulled a card from the Oracle of Delphi. I'm so grateful to you. I know that you stock my Oracle cards in your beautiful studio.
I love that.
Um, yeah. I thought the Oracle of Delphi was appropriate for you, my
Mm,
love, because you really are that beautiful earthborn, wonderful priestess of your gorgeous temple. So I just felt it was so appropriate. And the card I pulled is the Dancer card, and it's such a euphoric, beautiful
Oh,
card.
I love that.
Yeah, and the words on the card are shift, dance, enrapture, and embody. Embody. You can't make this stuff up, right? Um, and she's
So
just so
gorgeous.
free and liberated, and she's dancing in flow. She's kicking her leg up. She's between two gorgeous golden pillars. The
Mm,
colors are those gorgeous kind of sacral colors, you know, the red, the oranges, the golds, those sort of colors.
mm.
And just so beautiful. And there was just one little thing that really popped out, and I'll just read that to you very quickly. Um, Invoke your highest self through the medicine of movement. I don't know why, but that just kind of hit home.
Love that.
Um,
Mm,
Beautiful. Let go and find your flow type thing.
yeah, gorgeous.
So beautiful. So I thought that was really appropriate
Yay,
for our session today.
thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, Suzy. It's been so wonderful. I've just loved sharing, and yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's such a pleasure. And thank you for all your support of me in the studio. And yeah, I just really appreciate you and all the work that you do in the world. It's so magical. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, my love. Thank you so, so much. Infinite heartfelt blessings to you. I can't wait to get back to the yoga studio. And bye for now. See ya.
Okay.
Bye.